Okay, so the shaking hands. We're off to the races. Gary to start. Gary with a promising rack. He's got the J to score with. Um, so he's got things like Jeets, a couple of spellings. J does somewhat hinder the rack, but at least he can score with it. So yeah, he's going to play Jeets, not waste much time. He'd like to avoid putting the S on the centre star to avoid giving an easy bonus line to the triple, but he can't help that here. He's got to take the score and move on. So yeah, starts with Jeets for 40. Femi with a clunkier rack, only one vowel, both C's, not the most inspiring of racks. So we're looking to play off some of the clunky consonants, certainly the W, one of the C's. Could play something like Wicker onto the A of Jeets. LMY is a reasonable leave for a three consonant leave. The Y functions as half a vowel, so and it's easy to score with, so should be able to score something next turn. Also, things like Lecky or Cycle if you want to play off both C's. Lecky would keep the I, but you're keeping the W, which you want to avoid. Hard to suggest much else, really. Quackle suggests Cecily through the E, Cicely, which plays off another tile, but again, you're keeping MW, which you don't want. So yeah, not really much to suggest here. Just try and play off some of your consonants. Wicker does block the four-timer lane, opens up a new one, but it's slightly less useful putting the I in the second position. So you can't worry too much about that. He looks to have got Cycle lined up. Unsurprisingly, there's nothing from the J. That would be the obvious first place to look for a score, but his rack is so clunky, he's not going to be able to do that. He's going for something else. He's going for claw. So playing off the consonants, keeping his lone vowel and the Y, scoring a bit less, a bit more defensive than either Cycle or Wicker. So yes, reasonable play there. Gary again will be looking to score from that J. He's got a reasonably balanced rack, but again, no bonus. Already quite difficult to score if you don't have a bonus, either with claws or onto the S of Jeets, or if you've got nothing from the J, as he doesn't, then you're going to struggle. Something like Defo and Joe is a possibility, but that does open up an easy scoring opportunity beneath Defo and also with the triple line with the D there. There's also things like Flied through the L of Claw, which a bit more defensive than Defo, slightly worse leave, but similar score. Does take off the S as well, so something to bear in mind. Yeah, again, as I said, the It's already quite a restricted board if you don't have the key tile to hook onto claw. He's gone a bit more defensive. He's gone for Fiats onto the S, which takes out the S as well. Scores 13. Um, keeps probably his best leave of EIT. So yeah, more defensive. Femi trailing by 38. He does have a play this time from the J if he wants it. He's got Juicy, and he's immediately playing it. I don't think there's much to think about there. Looks to be best. So yeah, just play it and move on. Bank some time for the end game. It's all too easy to spend too long on the early moves and then find yourself in a situation where you need time for the end game and you don't have it, and that's when mistakes occur. So yeah, good to bank some time early. MAT is a good leave as well, so I'll be happy with that move. Gary's still doing his housekeeping, but yeah, we'll see his tiles now. Drawing to EIT after his previous play of Fiats. Looking promising. Spent a bit of time looking for a bonus, but there isn't one, as it turns out. Again, it's tricky to score if you don't have the right tiles. Juicy opens up a 4-timer possibility, starting with the C. The C is one of the best tiles for 7 and 8 letter bonuses, so it's a line that's likely to stay there unless one of the players draws an H for the parallel play next to it. Quackle suggesting Penai next to Fiats as the best static option, which scores well, doesn't give much away, keeps RT. So that looks pretty good. Other than that, there's really not much. Playing off Nip or Pen, for example, next to Fiats, or Nip forming NY, which is not a good idea because of the hooks that it has. So that would give too much away, really. So yeah, if you don't see Penny, then there's not really a lot on. Gary going for 10, which is reasonable, scores some points. Sets up an S hook, which he doesn't have, but he could easily draw one. So it doesn't give much away. So Femi to reply, trailing by 19. Drawn a few bells to his keep of AMT. Again, it looks promising, but there's no bonus there. These are the most frustrating racks when they look quite promising, but there's nothing to be done in terms of bonuses. Gary with the first blank on his side. Femi to play. Possible plays include playing Mod next to Pen, which again doesn't give much away. Scores 23. Could blow up the rat by playing Co-Admit from the C of Juicy. That leaves a dangerous S hook, which probably won't want to. He probably could infer that Gary has an S from playing Pen. He doesn't have it, as it turns out, but it's not something I want to make at this point. There's also things like Atom through the T of Jeets, making Lad and Woe. That's a pretty good leave of DEIT. Replaces the S hook of Claws with one Atom. Does open up the triple, but you need a 6-letter play, starting with a vowel or a Y, so or the other M. So it's not the riskiest choice. Other than that, it's probably reduced to playing things hooking with my like MOI, and he is going with mod by the looks of it. So, yeah, taking the points leaves perhaps one too many vowels, but he's not giving much away. Maybe a little concerned about the spin hook. So Gary with the first blank, having kept rent, he's drawn into rent a blank. They'll be looking for a four timer from the sea of juicy. Blanks can be a bit of a time sink. You have to spend time iterating through likely letters, looking for the best play that you can, highest scoring or best one defensively. And he's playing something from the sea of juicy. Canterer, possibly, which unfortunately is not valid. Femi holding, going for a challenge. It's there, recanter and recurrent. It's easy to mix them all up. Gary, unfortunately, has picked the wrong one. So you'll have to take that off the board. So we go back to Femi, who drew the awkward W to go with his vowel heavy keep. The 4-point lead, he's got perfect knowledge of Gary's rack, so he's now got to decide what to play that doesn't give too much back to Gary. So the plays like Weiss are out because it gives the easy twice hook, and we know that Gary has a T. Femi will know that. So the obvious play isn't viable here for him. He could play off the IW with Iwi, but only scoring 8. Something like Nui might be better, just scoring something and keeping AIRT, which is pretty good. He knows that Gary's got Sterner and claws and things through the sea of juicy. So it's tough to block everything. The blank gives him a lot of flexibility. So perhaps best to focus on his own rack. So I think Nui looks pretty good here. But Femi is going to play the fishing move. Does block Recreant and Recanter, so there is some defensive merit to it, but there are bonuses through the eye as well. So Femi going for a bonus of his own, which is perfectly reasonable. Back to Gary with the same rack that he had previously, trailing by 12. So he does have Sterner. Also things like through the eye, like reinsert, reinters, reuniter. Anything through the eye does open up triples, so I'd like to avoid that if possible. Sterner is the obvious move with claws. Oh, he's playing centerer this time, which is also not valid, sadly. So second phony. Femi holding again. So if there's any doubt, then you should challenge. It's only 5 points if you're wrong. I think people are sometimes afraid to challenge, afraid that they're challenging a word that they really should know, but you shouldn't be afraid to challenge. It's an expensive thing to get wrong if you let a phony stay on the board. Femi's accepted. He's possibly influenced by the fact that his bonus, which previously didn't play, now does. So it does make his next move easier. But having said that, probably should challenge it off here. Centre scores so much. So yes, if only gets through, Femi's not going to waste any time putting down his bonus. The previously homeless Itario. He's playing it above. Oh, sorry, that's the only place it will go. It won't go below. So yeah, that's the only playable bonus he has. So that's 68. So Gary now with a 6-point lead. The triple open. After a cagey start, the board is starting to open up. All three S's and a blank to come, and the X, Q, and Z. So could develop into a high-scoring game. Going to respond with the triple open. Drawn an S. And a few 3-pointers to go with it. We'll be looking to play with that O. There are no bonuses here, unsurprisingly. The BMP is a little too clunky for that. But you'll be looking to play through that O, so things like Boom or the newly allowed Bopo are the obvious choices here. It's playing off 2 of the 3-point consonants, keeping 1 and retaining the S. Although the S is not that useful on this board as things stand. Might be interesting to see if Centerers comes into consideration later on. We know that Centerer is a phony. Femi may have been unsure himself if that was allowed or not. So might see an S being hooked onto that later on. Could be crucial if it stays on or not. Gary playing above Itario playing Bamp, which is also not allowed. It's Abamp, which is the opposite of an ampere. I think Femi has accepted, so that one's gone through as well. Femi with a balanced rack, but again, some clunky constants to work through. We'll be looking to use the triple if he can. He can play bar, a top Bamp for 40, making use of the Apo hook. It's easily his highest scoring move. And yes, he's playing that. So that'll be 40 points. So that moves him back into the lead. It gives him an 8-point lead. Back over to Gary, who kept iOS. He's drawn a second O and the V. So fairly awkward rack. Board closing down again. Options include playing to the M of mod, so Varoom or Vroom to get rid of the V and the two O's. Does open up, or Varoom opens up a 9-timer. The V in second place is for prefixes like over. So not the riskiest of 9-timer openings, but still possible to score well there. So perhaps Vroom is a little safer, doesn't open up the triple. Other than that, he can try and make an opening for his S by playing Arvo and AY next to Juicy. There are still two S's unseen and a blank, so it's awkward to block though. If Femi doesn't have the S, then reasonably likely to stay there for a bit. But Gary is always playing double O next to mod. So lower scoring move opens up the triple to the top left, keeping the V, which is generally quite a clunky tile, possibly fishing for something, or perhaps doesn't want to open the board too much. Over to Femi, who's drawn the X, but the rack is still quite awkward. He'll be looking to play into that newly opened triple. But he does have a good play with the X down from the E of Centera. So Exude is that move. It's obviously the best play. There's nothing close to it in terms of score. So it's one downside of putting the E there is, yeah, vulnerability to EX plays like that, or even EQU plays. So see if Femi can find that. Looks like he is. Does open up the bottom line, but it scores so much you can't worry about that. 63 is much more than any other move that he has. You will be wary that Gary's last move was playing two tiles, which suggests he's got a strong leave. So he's aware that this may give Gary a bonus, but he's got to take the 63 points. There's no reason to turn it down, and he has played it. So that puts him 60 ahead. Gary, in the meantime, has drawn the other V, but that E does give him a bonus play. Not the most obvious word. See if Gary can find it. Doesn't see it, then the options are limited. The word is Vivaries, Vivaries, 68. If he doesn't see that, then say options are limited. Things like Vivid or Vivda, and he is playing Vivid. So he's getting rid of the two Vs, scoring 20. But yes, it's a missed bonus, so quite costly. Femi's rack slowly getting worse. Kept two Gs last time. Still with only one vowel, the U. So can they play things like Glug, which he has played. He could have played it to score a few more points with Goop. Glug does take out the top triple there, which is probably the best scoring spot on the board. So it does have that merit. But given that he is behind, he possibly should have left that. So, yes, Glug. Oh, no, sorry, Femi is ahead because Gary didn't play the bonus. So Glug gives Femi a 51-point lead. Gary to reveal his tiles after keeping ARS. Not much going in terms of bonus lanes, but he has drawn the second blank. He's drawn very nicely indeed. Serial and a blank. The Iwi hook for Kiwi means he can play bonuses with Kiwi. So Circly and Lakers. Those are the two highest scoring bonuses he has. There are various bonuses from the E of Exude. So things like earliest emailers, which score 3 less than the ones hooking Kiwi. Can also play from the G of Glug. So things like Gasolier, Glazier's Glacier, scoring 70. Gary's choosing to play from the E of Exude, which is probably the safest thing. It does take out the E as a bonus line. Doesn't leave any vowels next to triple letter squares. So yeah, probably the safest bonus all around that. Gives him a small lead of 23. Back to Femi, who's drawn the Z and also the S and second H. So a bit more scoring potential this time. Slightly more flexible rack, although he only has one ball at this stage. He can play the Z to score well. He can play ZE in the bottom right for 46. Does keep 5 consonants though, so not ideal. He is playing that to, again, save time. Both players having used about 13 minutes so far, so should have sufficient time for the end game. Femi's rat does have SHH in its leave, so that is a valid word. So yeah, that may come in handy if he has drawn a couple of vowels though, so won't need to make use of that. Gary has drawn that K, so he'll be making use of that. It's the drawback of Iwi. Whoever gets the K is going to score well with it, and it's likely to sit there unless someone plays a blank K or plays something through the I. So obvious things like Fork or Ferk and Kiwi score over 40. Don't think there's much else there to consider. Scores so well with a good leave. Although again, the S is not very useful on this board. It's rapidly closing down. I think there aren't very many realistic bonus lines after Fork or Ferk. It restricts the G of Glug. Possible 9 starting NE or 8 starting with the O of Fiads. 9s through the TE of center and bottom right are also possible, but slim pickings for bonuses, so it's entirely possible we won't see any more after this. But Gary's overlooked the Kiwi hook. He's played Kif, making Arc 27. So that's an important miss. Doesn't score as much. Although no one's going to play there now, but yeah, it's quite a lot of points to give up. So back over to Femi, who's trails by 4 now, having drawn 2 vowels to his 5 consonant leave. draws AU. So you can play things like huh and hoop, play off both H's and the U and score well. You can also burn the S and play something like who's through the U of exude for 36, which is certainly worth considering as, say, the S is not so useful on this board. Bear in mind, though, they've not played the Q yet, and this is the last U, so might be useful to hang on to it. Femi's opting to play her in the same spot as who's would have played. I think keeping the U is, yeah, a good idea here, because the Q is likely to be very awkward to play on this board. There are a few floating eyes, but it'll cost you some time to play off dumping the Q for only 11. So I think, yeah, her looks pretty good here to me. Back over to Gary, trailing my 22s, drawn very well, having kept ORST. The sevens he got don't play, but he can play through the eye of Iwi. There are 3 available 8s, and he's playing tritones immediately to save time. Does open up a new bonus line. Maybe there is some merit to playing Snottier here, because that means it does not open up a new bonus line at the cost of 8 points. So tritones also opens up a big scoring opportunity next to the ONES. Quite easily could score 50 there. So I think in the situation, playing Snottier would actually be better. Tenorist also plays in the same place, so I think in this case, playing the lower scoring bonuses is better in terms of not giving back bonus lines. So yeah, Gary's played the highest scoring bonus, so that gives him a 44-point lead. Femi, having played both H's, has drawn EN. And yeah, we see the drawback of tritones. He now has 2 playable bonuses in the newly opened line, both of them scoring 83, those being unleds or unlades. If Gary had played Snottier or Tenorist, they would not have played, I don't think. Actually, Snottier might still have played. Yeah, Snottier would have permitted it. So, yeah, would have made it a lot harder, but yeah, still plays. So this is quite an important move, given that Femi is 44 behind. If he doesn't get the bonus, then you'll be in some trouble, because that line is surely going to disappear next move. So he does need to find this to keep himself in the game. There are plays like June next to tritones, but so really does need to find the bonus here. I think June would put him about 10 behind or so. Yeah, all the other scoring plays are down in the bottom left, unsurprisingly. Both players with good time management so far. Gary with just over 9 minutes, Femi down to 6.5 minutes. There are only 6 in the bag though, so that's went to the end game. Femi has spelled out unleds. Is he about to play it? He does need to play it, otherwise he's going to be in some trouble. Even with Gary having drawn the Q, he can conveniently block that line with QI and IT. So, yeah, Femi really does need to find this bonus, or rather play the one that he's found. It always feels awkward when you find a bonus, but then you're not sure if it's valid or not. Then you spend ages thinking about it. Especially troublesome when you're on stream and you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to play a phony or miss a bonus. But he's broken up on lead, so considering something else now. Now down to 4 minutes. He does need to get a move on and play something to give himself time for the end game. Unleads would empty the bag. So can afford to think a little more, but does need to be speeding up a bit. And Femi's playing June, so it's probably the best non-bonus play that he has, but cost him is there. It's likely to cost him the game. So yeah, so June goes down. So Gary leads by 8, and he does have the obvious you play to block the best bonus line. So June does leave 2 in the bag. QI will empty the bag, so Gary will have to hope that Femi doesn't have a bonus from in one of the extremely limited lines that there are available after QI. Peg does look reasonably promising from Gary's perspective. Things like Autolands would fit from the of Fields, but Laterans would play next to Tritones if he did have that rack. So if Femi did have that rack, then there's nothing Gary could do. So he has to play in the Tritone spot and hope that Femi doesn't have anything. So yes, he is playing QI next to Tritones. Femi with Langors on his rack. um, trailing by 47, which is too much to overcome. There's no bonus available. So yes, missing unleds and unlades is going to cost him this one. Also, the two phonies that Gary played, centre and Bamp. So challenging either one of those may well have changed the result as well. But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. Quackle suggesting the best endgame here is to play goal, making goop for 17. Not seeing where the outplay is after that. But yeah, just anything in that spot looks to be best. Things like lawn, making loop, but also work in terms of out and twos. But none of those are going to score enough to overcome the deficit. So yes, a few mistakes in this game with three phonies in the end, but only one of them was challenged. There was the miss of Vivaries, which could have been costly. A few missed bonuses with Femi with missing unleds and unlades at the end. So either one of those could have changed the result, but we are where we are with this one. Femi down to under a minute, so he'll have to play something quickly. I think anything hooking oop, leaving a vowel should give him an out and two in multiple places. So just play something and don't go over time at this point. And yet Femi playing with the goop hook. Down to 15 seconds. Now under 10. Now he's taking it back. He's going to go over time, I think. Now playing long, but yeah, the clock's going to go over while he's doing that. So that will be a 10-point penalty. It's 10 points per minute or part thereof that you go over. So yeah, long, making loop is the play. So he will have outplays next turn with the S. Back over to Gary, who has the Y to score with. You can play things like OY under Kif. That'll easily be enough. Pretty much anything wins at this point. I think just don't play a phony, basically. Other than that, you can play whatever you want. But yeah, scoring with the Y would be enough. And sure enough, Gary plays Oi. So that's going to give him the win. And Femi going out with ARS and diffs. So there we are. So that'll give a final score of 440 to Gary and 403 to Femi. So 30-odd point win for Gary in the end.